Be'ezras Hashem Yisbarach Yom Shlishi Parshas Boy Shnas Tovshin Ayin Vov Yeshiva Tiferes Avigdor. Today's shir is sponsored SHLITA Shloime ben Tzaitalei and Refuah Shleimer Batisyon Chaim ben Etel and Refuah Shleimer Moshe ben Roch plus some others. HaKadosh Baruch Hu send the Refuah Shleimer ben Meheira Yisroel, and may Hashem be memalei mish'alos Leiv, the sponsor, the Taiva. Yesterday was Rosh Chodesh Shvat. If you looked outside, it's pretty snowy today. Winter has arrived. But yesterday we spoke on a subject about istakel b'iraisa ubara alma. And we want to explain to you a little bit of another layer of that and how does it apply to Chodesh Shvat. Yesterday we explained to you that everything in the world emanates from the Torah. That means the reason why there is a Chodesh Shvat, because in the Torah there's a Chodesh Shvat. The reason why there is anything is because it's in the Torah. How does the Torah reflect things? Through what? Through, it's a program. The Torah is a program that has all of the world's data in its program. What's the code? What's the language of the Torah? Is it Cobalt? Is it some other language? No. HTML? No. What is it? The language is called the Oisios of the Torah. Everything in the Bria is reflected and lies within the Oisios of the Bria. The Gemara says, Yodeya Hoya B'Tzalel L'Tzaref Oisios Shebohen Nivru Shemayim V'Aretz. That means what Hashem did, there was a formula. So, just like a computer program, there are codes behind the final picture, even if you see letters and pictures, but it's really code behind it. Everything in this world is got code. Everything has got code. And code is the oisius of the Torah. And if you know how to be mitzaref, the oisius of the Torah, you know how to make a Shemayim. So when it says Hashem made Shemayim, how did he make Shemayim? Did he just say, let there be Shemayim? The answer is no. Hashem looked in the Torah, and the Torah contained the code of creating Shemayim, and Hashem said, Aleph, Gimel, Daled, Hey, Vav, Zayin, 3 times Zayin, apostrophe, Nun, and the Mem, or whatever he did, and boom. That's how Hashem says, Yehi Or, and Yehi Shemayim. And Tzal knew how to do that. And that's the pshat, Istakel b'iraisa ubara alma. Hashem looks in the Torah, and he creates the world. Not only the ideas of the world, but the actual creation, all the code is hidden in the world. Now, every single Chodesh is its own time zone. It's not like we think every Chodesh is just a run-on or just a repeat. Every Chodesh is a different time of the year. Every Chodesh has its own koiches. It has its own avodah, and it's represented by its own letters. So, if you take a look in the Sefer Yetzirah, which some say Avram Avinu wrote, some say Adam Arisha wrote, but I think the general consensus is Avram Avinu. Over there it says how Hashem was boirei each Chodesh, with which letter, and which letter is shaykh to this month. On Chodesh Shvat, he says as follows: Himlich ois tzadi bileita. Hashem, in this month, Chodesh Shvat, has to do with the ois tzadi, and it has to do with leita. What does that mean? So, in the Shem Shmuel, in the Sukkot Shavar, he explains a very interesting insight that sheds light on our daily avodah. The lashon, the term leita, is used where? Where do we find the term of leita? Lamed, ayin, yud, tes, hey. We find it by Esav HaRosh, when he said to Yaakov Avinu, "Haleiteni no min ha'adam hazeh." What does haleiteni mean? Bring it on. Stuff my face. That's what haleiteni means. Like Rashi says, I'm going to open my mouth wide, and you just shovel in the chili. Get those beans down the kishkis. That's a term you use for stuffing an animal if you want to fatten it for market. We also have in the Gemara Bava Kama Daf Samach Tes, the Gemara says, the Lashon, Hali'iteyu l'Rasha v'yamas. So the Rasha wants it, stuff his face with it, and let him die with it. So, le'ita, in this two areas, what do we see it's related to? What do we see it's related to? What specific activity? Eating. That's what it's related to. Now, what determines when do you call achila achila, and when do you call achila le'ita? If you take big mouthfuls, you might say that's called le'ita. A guy who takes by the ladle full, and a guy eats with little spoons, that's achila. You might say that. But the emes is, what determines whether something is le'ita or whether something is achila is not in the mouth. What determines the nafkamina is, what is the function of your maisa achila? How does your achila seem? What is represented by your achila? And let's explain. Everybody has to eat. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created in a world that a person needs to eat in order to sustain himself. Without food, you die. But besides, for food itself, there's another aspect of food, a whole new dimension to food that has no shaykhis to the mazin and the zon part of food, the sustenance, the part of food. That dimension is the taste. The taste of food has absolutely zilch to do with the koyach of food to be mazin and sustain a person. Now, What's the purpose of taste in food? Now you realize, as my Zaydi used to say, for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to create taste in food, he had to create within a human being, in his mouth, a very complex system, a sensitive system, called taste buds, that's connected with the brain, it's connected with the nose, it's connected with the mouth, with the throat, connected with a lot of things. A person has a cold, food doesn't taste as good. A person that's brain is not connected properly, taste of food, not so well developed. A child whose sense of his mental conditions are not so fully functional, he finds pureed peas to be very attractive, and pureed carrots. But as he gets older, as he develops, so first he gets attracted to candy, sweets, but then as he gets older, he gets more mature, he cops the chilukim in the taste of each meichel, this meat, and this chicken, and this tops, and this bottom, and this fish, and then he cops the different matzavim, and he wants more spices, less spices, and v'chein. Now, what is the function of that taste? Now you have to know the purpose is to attract the person. That's what the purpose is. So, the purpose of geschmackheit, sweetness and taste, is in order to attract the person to food. What does that mean to say? Without any geschmack in food, so what would happen is a person would forego on food and he may suffer from hunger. Just read a story yesterday about a yeshiva bacher went to a top yeshiva from Tziyonim, and he was afraid to go to the yeshiva, but he was taken in. He learned very, very well, and from Rosh Chodesh Elul till Chanukah, when he came home, his parents didn't recognize he had lost 15 pounds. He wasn't big, large to begin with. His hat became larger. And not only that, his mother said, "What's wrong with you?" He said, "Ma, something's wrong with me." And his mother noticed that he really wasn't eating. He was playing with the food, he was barely eating. And then he showed his mother on his ankles were completely bloodied. The skin was peeled, and the mother said, "We are going to the doctor tomorrow." He said, "Ma, I really don't feel good. I have these headaches. It's mamish my head. I don't know what's going on." Mother said something was really serious wrong. And she started the rigmarole of taking him to all kind of doctors. And then eventually what happened was she took him to a neurologist and this, and then she finally went to a big psychiatrist. And the guy said, "Let me talk to your kid privately." And after a half hour, he said, "Did he go out?" Called the parents in, said, "Your kid is 100% fine." Because all the tests came back, it was 100% fine. He said, "But it's not low meat. God loses 15 pounds. He said, "I spoke to your kid. Your kid is under tremendous pressure, and the lachatz in yeshiva is not letting him eat, and it's not giving him any geschmack in what he's doing, and he's feels." She said, "What about his feet?" He said, "It's exactly what it is. It's the same thing. When you don't feed yourself, your body doesn't have, and you don't have geschmack in eating, and there's headaches." And he said, "I will give you a suggestion. Find a new yeshiva." They took him out, and in a couple of weeks, he was 100% well, started gaining pounds, his feet cleared up, his headaches went away. There's big lachatz in the yeshiva, so it wasn't fair. But you see how amazing it is, because people don't eat. Because food is geschmack, people eat. Obviously, there's a challenge. Because now the question is, do we eat the food? Do we use the taste to eat the food to sustain ourselves? Or do we eat the food for entertainment purposes? Most of us fall into the entertainment. The reason why we eat foods that taste good, it has nothing, we couldn't care less. We want the taste. We want the hazelnut, we want the German cake, we want the mountain vanilla, caramel, cream flavor. We want the pizza with all the toppings. I was in a pizza shop in a different state once, and they offered 42 different toppings. I told my wife, this pizza's not kosher. I'm not eating it. Everything, what is that kosher? I said, you ever heard of it? In New York even, which is the flesh pot. That's the sir habasa. That's where they sit, that's the mitzrayim. You ever heard of a pizza that's 42 different toppings? I'm not talking about salt, sugar. I'm talking about stuff I never heard of. Push to have on that menu. But people are not eating that for sustain themselves. It's for one purpose only. For taiva. And when a person eats for taiva, that's called le'ita. So, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants a person to see if food didn't taste good, we would view food like a waste of money. We'd be throwing out money because people don't see past that I needed to sustain myself. We would eat minimally, and you would look at all Tanuge Olam Hazeh that really need for a living, you'd look at it as a Maisa Behem and a waste of time. And the Gemara Taka says in Chagiga, in 3 ways a person is similar to a behemoth. You know what one of the ways is? He's oichlin v'shoisin kebehem. That's one of the ways that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made. So the Chayvus Halav says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu put taiva into achila, and a person has to be makir this toiv, and that's the geshmak, the ma'ir, the koyach ha-taiva in a person. She should be oisik in yishuv ha'olam, and to sustain himself. And all the inyanim hazeh that are called sorchei haguf, all physical needs are called in the Torah achila. That's it. Yeah, achila doesn't mean just food. All physical needs are called eichel because it sustains you. And in order, all of those things, HaKadosh Baruch Hu put some tithe in there, in order that a person should do it to sustain the breathing. A person otherwise would not do it. So, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, like it says, Hu Amar Vayehi. What does that mean? HaKadosh Baruch Hu Amar Vayehi. So the Gemara in Shabbos, in Kuf Nebe says, Hu Amar Vayehi Zu Isha. Hu Tziva Vayamoid Eilu Habon. That means HaKadosh Baruch Hu was mitzvah a person to be oisik in marriage and in taking care of raising children, because if he didn't have any geshmak and any benefits from it, if it was only from a sense of achrayas to get married and have children, people would not have an interest to get involved in this. And that's what it says in Koheles also, Gam es ha'olam nosam belibam. Hashem put into people's minds to be oisik. Because if there was no Yetzer Hara, Chazal tell us, a person would never be boyd bias, and he would never get married to an Isha. But still in all, a person now has to walk a tightrope. A person walks on this path. And yes, he has to. He should enjoy the food. He should be very grateful that Hashem gave him all in Yoni Achila that is enjoyed. It's like my grandfather used to say, you have to have great Haidah to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that Shabbos, which is the greatest day of Avodas Hashem, he didn't tell us to fast. He could have done the fast for 24 hours every week. Rather, HaKadosh Baruch Hu told us, enjoy it, be ma'anik the Shabbos. That's a big chesed. But the avodah is incumbent upon a person that even if he has to eat, to sustain the world and do other things, it should be only because he needs this. And he should not turn to the geshmak. They eat because of the koyach hamis'av. That's what it says in the pasuk. Tzadik oichel l'soive nafsha. A tzaddik eats to satiate himself, and he enjoys it, and he's thankful. But someone who eats, main focus is for enjoyment. That achila is called le'ita, because they eat only because of the geschmackheit, and the only thing that's attracting them, if it gives them a benefit, no, that's a taisvis. If it doesn't give a benefit, you know how many people I knew ate ice cream, even though they would eat ice cream, they were lactose intolerant, and they would suffer. I know a family that they loved pizza, and the whole family was lactose intolerant. They used to take all kind of pills, mamish, to be able to eat pizza once or twice a week. And they used to say, we know we're going to pay for this. And what's in the house? They said, we know we're going to pay for this. Are you out of your mind? I said, find some other food. Eat falafel. What are you eating pizza for? No, pizza is the food. And then when they heard about, what's it called? What's it called? Digestive lineage? So they heard about this BC30, the probiotics that took care of this. I'm telling you, in that family, they told me Mashiach has arrived. This man Agula, now they were able to eat pizza as much as they wanted with one pill, and umamish was, that's called le'ita. That's what it is. If you take a look in the Targum on the word haliteni, you know what he says? It comes from the word va'at-i-meni. Give me the taste. I want to have that geschmack stuff. Means what he wanted was the tam. And that's called le'ita. There are many people who engage in all kind of achilas haguf. All things that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us for achilas haguf, but they engage in it for no purpose of kiyuv haguf, to sustain the guf. They just do it because it's pleasurable, and the ikar is the taiva, and they misuse the whole thing. It's a tremendous challenge, especially if you live in a world that every advertisement you're reading is selling you on time. Everything is attracting you with title. When you buy anything in this world today, you buy a bottle of whiskey, they're selling you noshim. You buy a car, they're selling you noshim. You buy a horse, they're selling you noshim. Whatever you buy, they give you in your mind some kind of message. A person buys a computer, it's definitely for noshim. And for all kind of types. Everything they're selling you, this is the zach. That's what it was. And that is what drives us. And that's what I told you over there, Moshe Feinstein, that said klor, that he holds on Niyas Daitoi, all the different potato chips flavors, a mamish treif. You can't eat a mamish treif. Because it's like the only zayt's hineni muchan u mizuman lecho for no purpose other than what you call. He's very stark about it. But they understood it. But we live in a world that selling us 42 flavors of potato chips. And 42 flavors of any kind of thing. And every time you eat a steak, you want to have a steak like this, a steak like that. The same steak over and over. I don't want to. One day I want raw steak, one day you want to eat cooked steak, one day you want to eat partially raw steak. One place you want to eat steak that was aged, and it's done to grow things already. And they charge you a fortune for this stuff. It's unbelievable what sells in this world. Because people have no interest. We lost complete focus. So when the Sefer Yetzirah says that in Chodesh Shvat, Hashem was mamlich ois tzadi b'le'ita. That means, since there is in the world a concept of le'ita, and in everything there's taifim. So a person could what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to not enjoy my food? Am I not supposed to enjoy what I enjoy? No. Here's a person that takes a walk. Two people are walking. One person is walking because it's kulei l'shem taiva. It makes him feel good. Helps his endorphins. he imagines because of that, it's going to help to have more taivas, achila for Olam Hazeh, whatever the guy thinks he can do. And here's a guy, he's a Rav, and he's walking religiously, same like the other guy, and he's walking for one thing, to sustain my guf, and to be makayim my guf. That's the chiluk. So if the world exists, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave the koyach to be mamluch the ois tzadik. The koyach that I have, the koyach that was granted to mankind, is the ois tzadik. You know what the ois tzadik reflects? The word tzadik. That's what tzadik is. The Gemara says, tzadik, pashut, tzadik, kafif. That's what the Gemara says in Masechet Shabbos, Kuf Beis. A tzadik is somebody who humbles himself. A tzadik is pashut. A tzadik is somebody who limits his maisim to be done al pidin, and they should be b'tzedek. That is the midah of tzaddik. And it's the same thing when it says tzaddik oichel l'soy v'nafshe. When it comes to matters of achila, a person is a tzaddik when he's mechavein in his achila for the tzorech achila. Isaiah would eat and he would enjoy every spoonful. But it wasn't for the purpose of enjoyment. His enjoying the Michael was a means of him being more grateful and more thankful to Hashem. That's how you know what our kavanah is. When we have a ganz geschmacke zach, guy makes a geschmacke food that he really enjoys, and he says, ah, Baruch Hashem. What kind of benching does he do? And the question is, does he feel if it's closer to Hashem or further from Hashem? So it says, Tzadik oichel l'soiva nafshe. It's a pasuk in Mishlei, Perek Gimel. It says, Ubeten rishoyim techsa. I want you to know, my grandfather was a very big proponent of when somebody should enjoy his food. He was very against those people who would put salt on their food, make their food tasteless. He didn't hold that to the Ratzon Hashem. Hashem wants a person to enjoy his food. Hashem wants people to enjoy themselves in this world, but the joy should bring you closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And it says, Ubeten Rishoyim Techsa. The stomachs of Rishoyim will bring him Achisorim. So the Goyen says, why is that? So it says, Arishoyim Shekol Achilosam, who Ach Virak Bishvil Taivosam. The Rishoyim whose whole Achil is only for their Taiva, so they always feel like they're missing a stomach. You know what? They want to have more and more and more. And the tzaddik, however, who's all his eating is for his kiyum, he doesn't feel he's missing another stomach. And that's what a person has to understand is the avoid of Hashem. And the koyach of li'ita, with this koyach of li'ita in the world, which is a koyach to misuse all taivas, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created, in conjunction with that, ois tzadik. And that's the koyach for a person to be moshel over his li'ita. And Hashem was mishadach, he was mitzarif, he bound the tzadik with the li'ita. He was mamlech. He actually made the melech. Tzadik is the melech over a li'ita. The melech is when you demonstrate control over it, and he was mitzarif them zeh b'zeh, that a person could use it b'tzedek. And not that the li'ita should be moshel over the tzadik, but rather that he should be moshel over the li'ita. And if a person does that, a person has to know that this is the yesod of Chodesh Shvat. Now, you have to know that it says in the Sforim that Chodesh Shvat is Keneged Yosef HaTzadik. Because that was the midah of Yosef, that was the midah of Tzedek. And this midah is what enables a person. Now, a person should think about this. It's very important for a person to think about this and to understand what the Avigdor is in Chodesh Shvat. So if a person were to want to work on this, and maybe twice a day, when he would eat something, he would ask himself this question: what am I taking this spoonful for? What am I eating this spoon for? Am I eating it to sustain myself, to be mazed in myself? Or am I eating this solely because of the joy and the taiva? And then he would put it down if that's the reason. I once had a story. It was by my Rebbe's house there in Yisroel, and he was eating supper when I woke him. So I said, "Oh, excuse me." He said, "What do you have to excuse me? What are you doing wrong?" I said, "I see you. Stop, I don't want to disturb you." He said, "Come in, sit down." And he invited me to watch him eat. He ate the plate, and then left on the plate was a piece of kugel. And I noticed him starting to play with the kugel. He was holding the plate and moving the kugel this way, that way. What's he doing over here? Is that a brisket nanu? What's he doing over here? What's this new halacha? So I was watching him, and then I said, "Rebbe," I said, "Megich fregen, may I ask you to understand what's tutzach da?" So he looked at me and he said, he cleared, like, and then he said, "No. Okay, I'll tell you. I already ate supper. You saw? Now I'm clearing. I want to eat this kugel. But my shaila I'm clearing is like this. Why do I want to eat this piece of kugel? Is it because I'm hungry still and I'm not full? Ich bin nicht satt. I'm not seiva. Or is because it's geschmack?" I said, "What's the nafkamina?" He said, "If it's because I'm not full, I'm going to eat it." Hashem wants a person not to feel hungry. But if it's because I'm really full and I'm eating it just because it's geschmack, then he said, "I'm trying to be machriya which way is right." And he was clearing. And then he jumped out of his seat and he said, "Take it in the kitchen." I said, "I'll take it." No. And he carried it to the kitchen. So I said, "Why did you do that? He usually take his plate to the kitchen, I don't think." So he said, "I felt that the Yisroel was starting to work on me. He was trying to convince me that you're not yet, you're just hungry. When I have such a suffix, I decided I better take it out of your eyesight, and that way," I remember thinking, wow, Baruch Hashem, that was a clear. Imagine you go to a guy's house, you see him playing with a piece of kugel, you're trying to say, "What are you trying to do?" The guy tell you, most people tell you, "I'm trying to clear, can I still stuff this in my face somewhere?" You say, but I went there, so I was there one story over and over and over about two Gerach Hasidim that were sitting across each other. And they were eating, and they were eating, and they were eating. And finally one guy goes, "Oy vey." He was holding a pickle in his hand. And the other guy said, "What are you oy veying about?" He said, "It doesn't fit in." So the guy told me a suggestion: put your finger in, clear some space, because things come out, and you can continue. But that's called halitani, that's the shayla. And will I get sick if I take this? Not get sick. That's what a person has to understand. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to be mamlech, the tzadi on the leita. So, this is Chodesh Shvat. So let's be makabel upon ourselves, b'li neder, to make such an uvda, to do such a thing, and at least you'll be able to say that you were mikasher yourself with Chodesh Shvat, and you maybe will be zeicha in other areas also to be mamlich the tzaddik over the le'ita.